Cool. Hi everyone, it's Howard from StartupRemarkable.com, and today I have a very awesome guest, Tim from Think Big, Be Big. And I met Tim in London at the kind of blog meetup a week or two ago, and he's telling me about some of the stuff he's doing. It seems he has a dating site. He's just written a children's book. He's got a couple of different businesses, and I just thought, man, I gotta find out what this guy is doing because I want to know. So it's a real pleasure to have you on, Tim.
Pleasure. Good to be here.
Great stuff. So just to kind of briefly, just tell everyone, because you've got so many different businesses. Just give us a really quick kind of update on, what is the Think Big, Be Big group, and who Tim is.
Yeah, thanks very much. It's really difficult, and I think most entrepreneurs go through that kind of cycle of not knowing who they are and what they do, and I, for one, have suffered from that kind of identity crisis. And I suppose that stems from a background in psychology, which means that I question everything. Hence the idea of thinking big is to sort of to question everything. The idea was born from a frustration, really, of the same old consumer products, the same old services that I was being presented with. The first product started thinkbigbig.com back into 2006. It was like a stylishdig.com. So it had a ranking algorithm where you could big up your favourite bar, restaurant. Essentially, it was discovering the best of everything based on location. Mm-hmm. And this was before anything like quite trusted places. Any of the review sites were there. Mm. So it was in the era of UGC, mashups, and I thought and still do at the time that this was revolutionary, to say the least, in the sense that not revolution in terms of the content, but in terms of the collaboration of different technologies. So effectively, it was a classic mashup. So we had Google Maps in there, we had the algorithm, ranking algorithm, we had the UGC element. What we didn't have, and I suppose this was my first sort of failure / learning, was we didn't have critical mass. So we had this fantastic concept where individuals could come onto the site. We had certain areas, so we had your live big, work big, eat big, see big, various channels, vertical channels, where users could come on. We just didn't have critical mass. And that was my first venture. I think I got a business loan of $5,000, got a credit card for $5,000, made it to 10. I spent upwards of like 14,000 on this idea.
Yeah. And
now I kick myself because the barriers to entry in terms of content creation is so much lower. That if I had that money now, I just think, oh, fantastic! There'd be so much more I could do. So that was the idea of thinkbigbig.com was the first idea. It rolled out really, and it was born from a frustration, as I said before. It was really an idea used as a positive mantra, if you will. Going out on a date, come on Tim, think big, be big, or going for that job interview, think big, be big. It became a kind of positive mantra that moved me forwards in terms of anything I did. It was my work or my personal life. So I touched earlier on that I've got a background in psychology, so really interested in the why. Why people do things. Whether it's the same job for 20 years, or whether it's deciding to quit the job and go travelling. It's a real drive, a real fascinating that really did fascinate me. So that said, I worked, having finished my degree in psychology, I ended up working in consumer publishing. I worked in consumer publishing for several years. I worked for the Institute of Directors. I worked for Future Publishing, a large consumer publisher in London. A lot of titles your viewers may have heard of, like T3.com, Games Radar, etc. Worked for VNU, or now Incisive Media. So they did a lot of men's lifestyle titles. And whilst at Future, I was responsible for looking after the digital side in terms of commercializing their digital assets. So things like variable targeting, creating audience segments, looking at RSS, looking at video, looking at sort of the emerging trends effectively. Now this was great for a time. However, like any entrepreneur, I suffer from boarditis, and with boarditis, again, it's a term I've just created, so maybe I need to trademark that. But with boarditis, you can do something for so long, and I say to so many people that the title doesn't define you. You know, whether you're account director, sales manager, sales director, I'm the chief exec, whatever you want to call yourself, that doesn't necessarily define who you are. So people say, so what do you do? You know, the most often and most boring question I get asked at networking events, and probably yourself, pretty much how, you know, so what do you do? And people try and segment and categorize yourself, and I feel that the title doesn't necessarily define you. And so in doing that, I worked for this company and decided to leave because I was confined and constrained by the title I was given, in that what I did in terms of my roles and responsibilities was limited. I'd leave that job and then I'd go home and do my own thing. Mm. It was kind of the Eric and Banana Man. You know, you do your bit and then you go home and be the superhero, you know. Yeah. And I'd leave and think, this is not really me. And so I took the decision and this is emboldening me. It was Thursday the 25th of November, 2008. Decided to take the decision to hand my notice in and say, look, Tim, stop pretending to be an entrepreneur. Stop playing it. You've got to start living it. So quickly, I'll sort of wrap the story.
Just quickly, I'm just really interested in that. Did you have a lot of savings? Because that's a big jump, and I know a lot of people.
It's a big jump.
It's a thing a lot of people know they need to do, but don't necessarily do it. You know, can you tell me about that decision and what made you kind of go, right, this is the time?
Well, I think there's two decisions you have to make, and I made one of those two. And the one was, can you do this without any savings? Can you do this and just go it alone because you can't take it anymore? You're living the lie, so to speak. Or secondly, you've been working in an industry that you've become accustomed to, you're experienced in. You've now got a black book of contacts that you can easily make that transfer into doing your own thing. Mm. Well, I did the first thing. You know, I didn't have any contacts, didn't have any savings. I just knew that it was something I had to do. With hindsight, would I have just left my job like that? Probably not. Well, knowing me, I probably would, but I'd advise people not to. Okay. Sense that you need some kind of backup. You know, I had a very supportive, and still do have a very supportive partner who supported me through the interim period. But you need that. You need that sort of that black book, those contacts, and that industry experience. But I left knowing that I couldn't keep pretending to be something I wasn't. So I left there, and then I just started writing. I started blogging. And created Think Big Big Entrepreneurs, which is like a sort of a business blog.
Yeah, I've been on it. It's awesome.
Thank you. And so just started writing about my ideas. I thought, well, this isn't really going to make me any money. How do I make money from this? Because it was great writing and having that time out really from that kind of corporate 9 to 5.
Yeah.
This was in the beginning of 2008 into January. I was out of shape. I thought, oh Tim, get yourself sorted. This needs to be sorted. And I joined the Real Fight Club. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's not kind of Brad Pitt underground garages where everyone takes their tops off and beats each other up. It's a gym, a boxing gym based in Shoreditch in Liverpool Street in London. Okay. And it's essentially white collar boxing. You train for 3-minute rounds for charity, and I pretty much decided to take part in this charity boxing match. And this is someone who's never been in a fight, never been hit. What am I doing? I just thought, okay, just challenge yourself to something you've never done before. So I did that, learned a huge load, my fitness went up, my confidence went up, and interestingly enough, the founder became my first client. They became my first client under Think Big Big Media consulting. So the idea of the brand in terms of moving was from the .com to the entrepreneurs to the consulting. It was a natural sort of transition from putting my ideas together into a kind of a package, if you will.
So Tim, just to stop you there and ask you a quick question on that. So you went onto the market, you'd had a few years experience. To actually then create a consulting business to be able to kind of, I suppose you're an expert advising other people.
Right.
How what were those kind of core things you were offering? And for somebody who was in the kind of same position, how do you kind of transition to be thinking yourself as an expert, to be that consultant? Because I know, because it's something I've kind of gone through quite recently, and there's a bit of a mind shift to kind of go, actually, I am a bit of an expert in this.
I think, well, first of all, in terms of the word expert, I don't really sort of class myself as one. I try and define myself as somebody who has a sort of a valued opinion based on experience, and from that experience, I can then provide value to said business or individual. And that in itself indirectly relates to the associated costs and fees that I charge.
Okay.
So in simple terms, when you're starting out, you say, hey, this is me, I'm Howard, employ me. Well, if I've never heard of Howard before and I don't know who Howard is, your credibility and therefore your value proposition in the market and therefore your costing and fees are indirectly related to that said credibility of who you are. However, in terms of positioning, you position yourself in a way, I hope, that you've got the experience behind you. You have the value proposition, which is, can be both from social proof, whether that's on your various touch points. So you may have thousands of followers. That gives you a certain cachet of social credibility. It may be that you've got industry experience from working for large corporations that you can then transfer that knowledge to.
Yeah.
And I had a bit of both, essentially.
Okay.
So that helps in terms of positioning myself to the said businesses.
Okay.
I must say, however, it's slightly more difficult to position yourself to a larger business as yourself, as opposed to a large business working for a corporation. If I said, "Oh, it's Tim from Google," you think, "Oh, right, it's Tim from Google." Already, I've got the big brand behind me. If you're calling from person X from company Z, who's company Z? So you need to build that credibility. So what I found, a lot of your viewers who watch this, who are starting out, may find that they'll think, well, who am I? And they'll ask themselves that question. And you need to almost rebuild your social proof and rebuild your credibility. And we live in an age now where social platforms allow us to do that. And that's one piece of advice I'd certainly say, is that, is really invest in social platforms to try and increase your social proof and increase your credibility, because when you decide to go it alone or you're running your own business, it's very difficult because people say, well, who are you? Why should I spend my money with you?
Yeah.
So I'd certainly say, utilising these social platforms to allow you to do that is definitely a benefit.
Okay, good advice. Good advice. So you were you'd gotten your first client through the boxing guys, and what was next?
What was next? Really, it was a case of, well, can I do this full time? Like I said, the two decisions that people make. So, well, have I got that black book and there's contacts, or am I just going to go alone? From that, you decide, well, can I do what I'm doing, cheaper, faster, more efficiently than the competition? And so for me, I thought, well, yes, I can. However, what I wanted to do for myself was create a lifestyle that was not only I'm trying to find the right words, but gave me that flexibility and that independence. It's very Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week. It's, I hesitate in terms of using that because he's overused and he's over-endorsed. Fair play to him, he's doing extremely well, but I think it's the same principle. People want the same things, I would think. They want autonomy, they want financial security, etc.
Gotcha.
Those are things that drove me and still do drive me. So from then on, I decided, well, what can I do or create that would allow me to have this autonomy and this financial security? And sorry.
So at what point did you kind of launch your first of the many businesses? That's something that just, I suppose, just really stood out for me. How many businesses you have, and they all look really professional and look really, really good. Which one of those came first? As I say, outside the consulting.
Well, it was a natural progression, and I think in simple terms, when describing what I do, it's in two elements of the business. There's a consulting arm, and there's a publishing arm.
Okay.
So the consulting arm is the kind of think big media, where we provide digital and business strategy for clients,
right?
Training workshops, etc. And then there's the publishing side, and the publishing side is the model that I'm trying to automate. So what is publishing? Publishing essentially is having a product or service, whether that's content, and being able to distribute that across multiple platforms. and essentially that's what I do. So I could have several pieces of content in the form of online dating or children's books, etc., etc., etc. What I'm fascinated in is the distribution platforms.
Okay.
So mobile being a classic example. You know, everyone's on a mobile. So what can I create on that platform that would provide people with value? Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Well, I kind of see because I know when we met, you were telling me about your children's book, and so many people want to be authors, and they may write for years and that, and here comes up Tim. He hasn't. You told me you hadn't written a book before. Okay, you've done a good bit of blogging, but certainly not a children's book. And how come? And you just launch a children's book, and I see it there, and it looks the real deal. Like,
it's as simple as this: leverage expertise.
Okay.
That's all I do. I'm no expert, but I use the best and I follow the best. Ask any internet millionaire, any successful business person. They have leveraged expertise in form of someone or something. So essentially, I didn't know how to write a book, but I knew people who did. So I went to the people who did. I didn't know how to. This is you see it there. That's the children's book there. There's a bit of a plug.
Yeah, it's awesome. No, it's
that's the book there, but
deal.
Fantastic. I mean, I don't know how to draw, but I know people who do. So what essentially I do across all of my products and services is think of the idea, and then think about who's done it before, have they succeeded, and then just replicate. It's in my opinion, it's kind of classic business. If something's succeeding, why would you not follow that methodology? So that's all I do. So whether it's creating a book, content for mobile, content for iPad, etc., etc., I look at what's worked. I find the people who've done it before, and then find the people who can do what other people have done before, and then I leverage their expertise. There's an associated cost with that, obviously, and the way I sometimes go about it is in the form of a revenue share.
Mm-hmm.
It can be in the form of royalties.
Mm-hmm.
In the book example, I found a fantastic illustrator. I use a lot of outsourcing sites. Won't give you a specific one, but there's a range. So Odesk, People Per Hour. There's a lot of sites in the Philippines and in Asia that I use that all help in terms of getting that job done at a reduced fee.
And this I love. Now, so many people have ideas for anything, but especially now apps and things, and they may not be developers. And speaking to developers, they always get opportunities of people who has the next big idea. How do you get somebody? You've got the idea, you've got someone else with the expertise, but you actually get them to buy into your idea. How do you do that? How do you recommend someone else does that?
Trade secrets. Well, a little bit of it is psychology, okay? And by that, I don't mean sort of Paul McKenna or anything, any kind of mind control stuff. Okay. What I mean by that, it's the psychology of people. Like humans are innately, I would say, creatures of habit. We are collaborative, I hope and believe, and willing to sort of share knowledge. We're all part of this kind of crowdsourcing world now, I believe. And if people have a great concept, I think it's for the greater good to share that knowledge than to keep that knowledge and be kind of like, this is my knowledge and my baby, I'm going to keep it. And so essentially what I do is I talk to them about the idea, the concept, and the opportunity, effectively, and I think I would, again, another recommendation or suggestion for your viewers is that, it's about the opportunity cost and the opportunity benefit. There's always going to be a direct associated cost for any product or service that you're wanting to create. But if you haven't got any money, but you've got a great idea, then you need to really look at the opportunity cost and the opportunity benefit. And that's essentially what I do with a lot of my projects. Let's say, for example, Howard, you're a high-end coder, developer, and you charge thousands of pounds perhaps for your work. But I've got this great new app. Say it's the Facebook app that wasn't there before it is now. I go to it's got a great concept of connecting people, shared connections. People can upload, view, share content, and it will allow users to do A, B, C, D, and E. it's classic sales. You sell the benefits, and once you've sold the benefits, you understand that. Then you start talking. You don't sell straight away. You just talk about the idea. Who it will benefit, why it will benefit them. The back of that, once you've got buy-in initially, then you can start talking, getting into the negotiation stage in terms of kind of monies, revenue shares, etc. Most people. Sorry, let me just finish one.
Sorry.
I think it's really important to sort of just note this down. Most people only start talking about price, once negotiation's taken place. The negotiation between whether it's your partner or you doing the dishes or not happens after you've decided, right, this we need doing. So in terms of an idea, you decide on the idea, you decide it's a good idea, then you start the negotiation process, then you start talking about price.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And you negotiate with these guys on the likes of Odesk and things, who are there primarily to make cash.
Correct.
So, do I have it right that you contact them, you do the whole classic sales? I can tell you're quite a persuasive guy, and your kind of passion comes out. Is it once you kind of lay out the benefits and then you just?
It's not just it's not just selling. It's me. Anybody can do it. I follow methodologies.
Okay.
It's not kind of this person's really charismatic. I'm not. How can I do that? There are principles and methodologies that you follow, and I haven't just acquired these overnight. I follow other people who've done the same thing.
Can you tell us that methodology?
Well, in simple terms, it's about finding out. It's about finding out what you want. So it's a product that needs creating, essentially. So you've got the idea, effectively. But the idea, it's who can do. Well, it's actually three things. Actually, it's three things in simple terms. It's the project.
Yep.
It's the people. And it's the priorities. Okay. So the project could be iPhone app. I then have to note down the 5 key things that I need to get this project done. Okay, so it could be, right, I need to speak to a developer. Okay, where is that developer? Odesk. So I look at the 5 key elements of that project that need to be achieved. Then I look at the people. I think, okay, well, who specifically do I need to talk to? Okay, I need to speak to maybe the developer. I need to speak to a coder. Maybe I need to speak to an illustrator. I might need to speak to a media agency. I might need to find out about Apple Connect, or I need to find out about what goes on that. So I look at the people specifically who will help me with that particular project. And then finally I look at the priorities. So what specifically do I need to actually do right now to get the project completed? So I work bottom up. So I work on priorities first.
Okay.
Then people.
Okay.
Then project. Because the project is kind of the bigger picture. It's like the iPhone app. Then it's, right, who's going to help me do it? The people. And then it's the priorities. So it's essentially okay, so what needs to be done now? Right now. Okay, I've got an app. Okay, what is it? Right, use a notepad. Notepad, write it down, scribble it down, speak to friends, crowdsource an idea, look at competition, write it all down. There's the kind of priorities, the kind of classic to-do lists.
Yeah.
Then you work, bottom up again. So priorities, people, and then projects.
Like it. That's absolute gold.
Well, I'm going to have a bit of a disclaimer here and say who I got that from. I use a lot of online mentors.
Sure.
And I use Brendan Burchard is a great guy. You should check out. He's great in terms of giving information. He's really just changed my business model around in terms of massively. First half of the year, I was doing what I was doing. I had a review with my friend. We have a kind of a 6-month SWOT analysis of where we are.
Cool.
And prior to the meeting, I was watching, found him by chance, Brendan Burchard, and he's all about packaging your information. Everyone's got a great idea. He talks about the book before, he talked about the app. But how do you get that idea out there? And he's a great exponent in terms of packaging all the information, and he uses this productivity planner, and that's where I got this kind of people, priorities, projects idea. So I'd love to say it was my own directly, but there's my disclaimer. It was Brendan Burchard. Yeah, definitely check him out. He's definitely one to watch.
That's fantastic. I've heard the name before, and is it most of his stuff on a blog, or is it a book? Or?
No, he's one of these I call he's online, not mental. He's kind of guru types, Jim Rohn. Who's the other guy? Anthony Robbins. Real motivated.
Okay, yeah.
It's a bit hippie, you know, but I mean, but you get it, right? If someone says, if you think in a certain way, it will change your mindset. It can be a bit, a bit woolly. But actually, if you look at neurolinguistics or neuropsychology, it's a positive mindset. And these guys just show you the way, essentially, whether it's through a methodology of a product packaging and how you package information through to, I think I'm going to be the best person ever. Telling you that stuff, the law of repetition, it actually does work. And so I must hold my hands up and say I do follow these guys occasionally just to get a sort of a soundbite, just to help you through the day. And I think your viewers who watch this, who perhaps are having a difficult time with deciding whether they're going to leave their job or they're currently setting with their own businesses, you need that kind of that positive encouragement, whether it's from someone who's done it before or just someone saying, yeah, you know what, you can do it. This is how it can be done, and I think it's great. I'm a great advocate for people watching these people.
Oh, cool! Yeah, I'm definitely going to check it out. And you mentioned that every 6 months you have a friend that you do kind of a swap with.
It's actually 3 months, actually.
Oh, 3 months, great. And how important is it? Because that seems a bit of a kind of you have a bit of a, I suppose, you set your own peer goals and a bit of a mastermind of sorts. How important is that to keep motivated when you're in effect?
Massively.
Yeah.
I cannot reiterate it enough. And as I said before, get the pen and paper out, get the pad out. I have to-do lists coming out of my ears, but it's a proven methodology. Again, writing things down gets things done. That said, obviously you can use things like iCal or Outlook calendars to prompt you, etc. But I mean, it just solidifies your vision. If you've got something in your mind, you think, this year I'm going to... How many people, actually, if you were to poll your viewers, had goals at the beginning of the year, so I'm going to be a karate expert, learn the guitar, learn Spanish, learn to cook, whatever their goals are, and you ask them from January to 6 months where they were with that, I'd probably say the majority of people go, I better start the gym, or I better book that lesson.
Yeah.
However, what I found is that by writing all these goals down, having someone to continually question me on those goals, it's a little bit of, again, psychological pressure on me to achieve those goals, and then I have daily actions to just move me forward with those. And that's the only way I think, me personally, in terms of how I move forward, is having a set goal, having someone I can speak to about those goals. You need someone like that. You'll have the naysayers, you'll have don't do it. You'll have all the people who are the 9-to-5ers who'll slag off what you're doing and say, you know what, they're just imposing their own negativity on you. If you're setting up your own business, you're doing your own thing, be around people who champion your cause. Go to that shared workspace, go to that speakers club, go to that networking group, and you be around the people who share your vision, and they will move you forward. Have those goals, write them down, and you'll be a success without a doubt.
Brilliant. So yeah, I was going to. My next question was going to be for somebody who doesn't have that partner, or has this vision, but doesn't have someone really kind of a positive person that they can kind of meet with every 3 months. Is where you'd recommend? Would it be at networking events, or how if somebody doesn't have one, where would they find it?
Well, look, we're talking via an online medium right now, and we live in an age where digital consumption is the norm. To quote a good friend of mine, gone are the days of the national boundaries, constraining our communication.
Right.
We are within the global superhighway, and in doing so, there are so many ways you can communicate with people, online and offline. Online there are the mentors that I mentioned. Go into YouTube, stick in online mentor. You'll find that person there. They'll have a chat. They'll give you that advice. Offline, absolutely. There's networking events, obviously meetups. You can it gives you a huge category list of the various topics that you may or may be interested in, and that's one way to start, most definitely. Yeah,
that's cool, great. And just moving slightly onto a different topic of you've got kind of a portfolio of different businesses. how do you keep so focused? Because all of them seem to be doing really well. It's difficult for some people to focus on one business, and you've got maybe about 5. How do you focus on those?
Again, to use a kind of Tim Ferriss thing, it's all about automation.
Okay.
Yeah. My vision, I don't know about your viewers, is, and I say this, and my friends and my girlfriend will tell me off for saying this, that I say I don't want to work. But, in this economy, people think, what is he saying? How can he say he doesn't want to work? But then again, if you look at the most successful people, they find that they can spend hours and hours doing what they do because they love it. But I don't actually believe that I actually work, although I spend more time now working on my various products and services than I ever did when I was in a so-called 9 to 5. However, now what I've done is I've created, as I said, methodologies and systems in place that automate the process. Mm. So in a real-term example, the dating site that I have, can I mention that? Or
yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Kissandacuddle.com.
Yeah.
Online dating for busy professionals. That's managed by a third party. Okay. So I don't have to worry about user Howard wanting to talk to user Melanie, etc., etc. That's not my issue. I don't profess to or want to know what's going on with you guys. I'm simply the go-between, the bridge, if you will. Okay. So my job really is to market the products and services, and then I have other people who manage the kind of the operational side of it. Okay. That is why I've got these various products and services and multiples of that, is that I have other people to manage them, or I create processes or find processes that can automate those processes, and then I simply just have to market them.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you concentrate on your core kind of strength, and I suppose the other things to find other people to manage the areas that is not what you want to focus on.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And just to from a publishing perspective, yeah, I love books. I absolutely love books. However, the way in which I'm reading books is changing, and so I've got to think, well. Sorry, my things falling down. Apologies there. So
that's all right.
My mouse falling down there. So I've got to think about how people are consuming their content. As I said before, about being a sort of a distributor of content, I've got to think, well, how are people consuming their content? So if I think, well, okay, well, people are using mobile more so, I simply then create content for that platform. I then think, well, how are people going to purchase that content? I then think, well, not too sure. Well, fortunately for me, there are aggregators in place that do that, or third-party providers that do that. So, iBooks being an example. From the book's point of view, there's Smashwords. There's loads of aggregators out there that can publish your content on your behalf. Yeah. And you sit back and get a check at the end of the month, pretty much. The hard work is putting the content together. Yeah. So if you're a business owner, you've got a concept or an idea or a product or service, it's utilising those people who will help the operations or the processing speed up. So if you've got a traditional business that's bricks and mortar, that you think, well, we need this physical thing to be sent out, find the people who can do that for you efficiently at a cost-effective price, saving you the time of having to do it. Because otherwise you're going to be the person who's thinking, putting the stamp on it, walking to the post office, sending it out. You need to spend your time more efficiently. And there'll be associated costs with that. You can look at the cost-benefits analysis in terms of what the cost will be in terms of me outsourcing that particular activity versus me having to actually do it myself. Okay,
awesome. Well, Tim, just before we kind of finish up, you do a lot of marketing for your own products as well as other people's, and we talk a lot about kind of marketing tips on the blog here. Which do you think is the most important kind of area to focus on for somebody who's just started up their business and wanting to kind of grow it?
What's the question specifically? What kind of marketing?
So I suppose what kind of area of marketing do you think if you were advising a new startup to focus on, initially? Which is the most important area?
Without a doubt, they should be focusing on their digital platforms.
Okay.
Without a doubt, market across all of your digital platforms. That's your social platforms, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Well, that's more of a business platform, but focus on your social platforms and your business platforms. But be audience specific. Don't be all things to all men.
Okay.
Be specific to your particular market, and then slowly build from there.
Awesome. And just lastly, last question before I let you go is, I'm a new startup. Say I'm a new startup, and I've got a couple of ideas, just like you do. What is the first thing I should do to kind of make it happen? What's the first step?
Ask your friends, family.
Okay.
And ask your gran. Can she get it? You should have a one-word descriptor. I think again it's another Brendan Burchard thing. I think it's I do X, help Y, so that Z.
Okay.
And if you can get that in place, I do X, help Y, so that Z, in simple terms, then you're halfway there. But ask your friends and family. Soundproof it. Will it actually work? And then you can slowly start. The strategics in terms of things like pricing and the marketing, etc. But it's going to be an idea that has got legs, right?
Yeah.
If you ask friends, I've got an idea of a social platform that connects people. You think, oh, right, sounds good. I like it. Then you think, well, what does it do? And then you build from that. Well, it's an online platform where you log in. It's got gaming sort of protocols. Oh, right, I get it. And then you build from that. So you start from the basic one-word descriptor right through to the what's in it for me principles, and you slowly build. But you build slowly, effectively.
Got it.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. Really, really great advice. Well, cool, Tim. So tell us, what's the next idea? Do you have?
I do actually. I have many ideas. The one I'm currently working on at the moment is a mobile city travel guide.
Okay.
It's essentially going to incorporate, like most things, social plugins, augmented reality, reviews and recommendations. So we're currently working on that as well. Also, we've got the children's book series, working on that, and various other sort of products and services. But yeah, exciting times. Great time to be an entrepreneur.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for all the great tips and just an insight how to really do all the things, all the ideas, actually how to make them all happen at once. How can we keep in touch with you? Where are you on the web?
On the web, you can find me on Twitter at ThinkBBB Entrepreneurs, but the short version is TBBBE. On Twitter, I'm most active there. From a consulting side, just TBBBM, which is Think Big Be Big Media as well. So Twitter's where I'm most active, or you can visit the blog at thinkbigbeentrepreneurs.com.
Lovely. Okay, Tim. Well, thanks very much for taking the time. It's been great, and talk to you soon.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks again.